Chapter 14 is called Hey, Dr. Zoo Person. Will that be on the exam? It's about various ways that you can study material. Here are the objectives for this chapter. Before we start, I want you to understand that college isn't hard, it just requires hard work. So I want you to think about that. It's not that it's hard, but you do need to work hard. That just means you need to have a plan, you need to study, and you need to complete your work by the due date. College is about going to class, listening to lectures, reading and studying the material, and taking tests and writing papers. That's pretty much it. There's a 6-step test preparation plan I would like to talk about. In this plan, the first thing you should do is determine what needs to be studied. So no matter which class you're sitting in, you should know what content is going to be on whatever exam or whatever demonstration of learning you have to do. You need to list all of that information that you need to study out on a sheet of paper or on something, okay? And ask questions if there's something you don't understand. Make sure that you have the syllabus and you know those due dates. Make sure you continue to check the syllabus because the teacher could change due dates. Step 2 is you want to make sure that you schedule specific blocks of time for studying. That means that you need to have a plan in your day with how far in advance you're going to study. In order to avoid cramming, you should study at least 3 days before the test so that all of the information is fresh on your mind. It's recommended that you study at least 6 study sessions of 90 minutes for 2 hours spaced apart for 3 days. So let me explain what that means. That means you need to study for 2 hours a day for 3 days straight. You need to make sure that you get that study time in however is best for you. If you can study for 2 hours straight, then study for 2 hours straight. If you know that you can't maintain your attention that long, okay, study for 15 minutes, then take a break, then study again, so that by the time that day is over, you studied for 90 minutes to 2 hours that one day, okay? A study split is what happens when you split your time between studying and not studying. So if you know you can't study for 2 hours straight, break it up into chunks. Study for 30 minutes. Take a 15-minute break. Study for 1 more hour. Take a 10-minute break and then study for those other 30 minutes. Everybody has to follow a study plan that is best for them on a personal level. Here's an example of a study split schedule. Notice for this person, they study for 5 minutes, then they're off for 10, study for 5, off for 10, or you could even do any of these variations. Step 3 is to create a study plan in writing. Why do you think it's important to create your plan in writing? Using a plan in writing is going to help you keep focus. It's going to make it more concrete for you. So you need to make sure that you specify the day, the time, and the content you're going to study. My strategy that I like to use is sticky notes. I love having a bunch of sticky notes, and each week on Monday, I will list out everything that I need to do for that entire week. And when I was in school, I made sure that I knew, okay, if my test is on Friday, I'm studying on Monday every day. And you want to make sure you defend your time. That means you don't let anybody distract you from what you've got to do. And sometimes life happens and emergencies come up. And if that happens, you need to have time in your schedule where you can still adjust so that you can still get your studying done. Step 4, you want to use yellow sheets. Now, you don't actually have to use a yellow sheet, but a yellow sheet is like a legal piece of paper. You can just use a regular sheet of notebook paper. You could use white paper. You could use colored paper. You could even use a note card. You just have to have somewhere where you write down all of the information you need to study. So that might mean you look at the book and you write down information. That might mean that you look at your notes and you rewrite the information that way and put them on note cards. You do whatever is best for you, but you want to interact with the information. You don't want to just read over it. You need to do something with it so you can put it to memory. Step 5, you want to be the teacher. Remember that you will remember 90% of information you teach to others. So that means you need to think like the teacher. What might the teacher give as a question on the test? Stand up in your room and, just kind of talk. Talk about the material so that you hear it and you're thinking about it and maybe even you're reading it. And then step 6, you always want to practice positive self-talk. That means you need to encourage yourself to do well on the test. You've got to have high self-efficacy. You've got to believe that you can actually pass the test. Visualize yourself being calm and going into the test and performing well. That is everything you need to know for Chapter 14 and how to study.